the beneficiaries of this corrupt deal were mainly the corporates.
Right.
Now, they may have given some kickbacks. They probably gave some kickbacks to Mr. Raja and perhaps to other officials. But the main beneficiary of this huge loot of literally tens of thousands or even lakhs of crores were these corporates. And therefore the importance of this judgment is that the unfair gain that these corporates got from this corrupt deal,
yes,
or from this dishonest deal should be returned back, and it should be put to the public auction so that the public exchequer can get this money, and further that in future,
yes,
no public assets and natural resources can be given away by way of mining leases or otherwise except by a transparent public auction.
Okay, Gopal Jain, you appear for many of these corporates. Do you see that in that way, that the corporates have received their just deserts, or do you believe this is excessive, that any corporate which simply perhaps had a legitimate contract has also been dragged in because of what Mr. Raja did?
Yes, Sandeep, in fact it falls in two different categories because the word corporate is a very all-encompassing word. There were those who got new licenses under a press release or a government decision of 10th of January,
yes,
which was clearly tainted, which the court has said is arbitrary, which is wrong, and therefore the consequence has fallen on them. They've declared these decisions illegal. There were several other serious telecom operators who had applications dating back to 2006, which had nothing to do with Raja, but the DOT did not grant them license or allocate spectrum to them, and it so happened that it happened subsequently and much later. Now you can't club both these people together because just by the doctrine of equality, they are two incomparables. So to give you one example, a very leading telecom operating company called Idea Cellular, they had applications of 2006. Now they have also been brought within the purview of the 10th January press release, though they've had made huge investments and capital expenditure, etc. Likewise, it happened with, Vodafone as well. But the court clearly has made that demarcation.
Right.
Because those which are for an earlier
Do you believe
period
that's right
have
or
not
wrong?
been
Do you believe
together.
that's right or wrong? Do you believe that's right or wrong?
Therefore, yes, that distinction is valid. It should be maintained because what was wrong was a subsequent Raja decision of 10th January, and the consequence of that has fallen on those who are beneficiaries.
Okay.
And the court has undone the fruits of the wrongdoing to those people, and to that extent I agree with what Prashant has said.
Paranjoy, is it fair that every corporate ex post facto now, some of them have to pay a penalty without proof that each of them actually colluded with Raja?
1 minute. I think what is very significant about this judgment, that it has actually named these names. It has tried to nail that nexus between business and politics. 3 companies have been singled out. Swan, which had a tie-up with Etisalat of the United Arab Emirates, Unitech, which had a tie-up with Telenor of Norway, and Tata Teleservices, which has a tie-up with Docomo and TT Docomo of Japan. Now, these 3 companies, according to the Supreme Court, made 24,500 crore by offloading their shares, and this, according to the Supreme Court, was a huge windfall gain, and this, the Supreme Court clearly says, was on account of the wholly arbitrary and unconstitutional action of the Department of Telecommunications. Wait, Rajdeep. There are 4 companies: Loop, Estel, Alliance, Systema. They've been asked to each cough up 50 lakh each for what the Supreme Court says arbitrary and unconstitutional benefits given by the DOT. Now, this is about as clear can get. Now, I am not suggesting that A paid a bribe or B paid a bribe, but when you have a corrupt nexus between business and politics, then the corruption is not only on the side of the political class. At the end of the day,
point taken. The Suhail Seth of Councillor who appears, who in a sense represents various of these various brands, including in the telecom sector. Suhail Seth, isn't this a moment of embarrassment for the corporates as well? We single out the politicians. The politicians are asked to resign. What about the corporates?
I've been listening to what Prashant and what Gopal and more recently Paranjoy have said. Let's not exaggerate the situation. I think three things have happened, and one of which is the judgment today by the Supreme Court is laudable. But the judgment today, it would be unfair, incorrect and illogical to cast aspersions on corporate India alone. I think, as Paranjoy said, there has been a nexus between business and politics which dates back to just after independence in independent India. The political expediency and the political influence over policy making,
Yes.
you and I both know exists and will continue to exist. It is incorrect policy making.
Yes.
It is the absolute power of rogues like A. Raja and his ilk that has actually created a situation where
Why?
if honest businesses
why
want
blame-
to do business in India,
Why
listen
blame
to
A.
me, I
Raja?
didn't interrupt.
Why
Listen to
blame
me.
A. Raja? The corporate
I'm not
perhaps
blaming
saw
A.
in
Raja. I said A.
someone
Raja
whom
and
they
his
could
ilk.
benefit from.
A. Raja and his ilk. You tell me, Rajdeep, a company like Telenor invests in India.
Yes.
They don't know if their partner, their Indian partner, has or hasn't bribed, and neither you nor I are sitting in judgment. The Supreme Court resides elsewhere.
Yes.
How do they know what the reality is? What are you doing as a result of this? You are creating, to my mind, a complete trust deficit in brand India. Forget corporates for a moment. The corporates, as the Supreme Court rightly said, they will be found out, there will be investigation, and the truth will surface. But in the process, what you're doing is, you're tarring all people or all companies in corporate India with the same brush, which
Sorry.
to my mind is not only
Sorry.
grossly unfair, it damages brand India.
Paranjoy, respond
Sorry.
to this brand India
No,
argument
that-
that you'll hear from time and again tomorrow, possibly even in the pink papers from
Excuse
leading
me,
industrialists.
Brand India has been, the image and its reputation and its credibility has been more damaged by the scam than by the decision of the Supreme Court to cancel the licenses. Nobody's starring
Absolutely.
everybody with the same brush.
Absolutely.
Nobody's suggesting
No one
that
is
somebody
talking about the
sitting
Supreme Court
in
decision.
Norway knew what was going on in Gurgaon. No, I'm not suggesting that. But what I am suggesting is that the Supreme Court, this judgment is a historic judgment, because what it's trying to do is curb this corrupt nexus, which is possibly
Absolutely.
behind it. It's the fountainhead of corruption.
But-
so in that sense, it's very
So-
significant.
but
Rajdeep,
Prashant Bhushan-
No. You must allow me to respond.
Yes.
You must allow me to respond.
Yes.
Paranjoy is mouthing exactly what I'm saying, but using a different syntax. I began by saying the Supreme Court judgment is laudable. But the reality is, why should the Supreme Court have to do the work that honesty should appear, or that honest minister should be doing in the first place? What is the government? And forget UPA, ND, I'm not even willing to go into that debate. Is it not the responsibility of governments to be honest and integral to their core?
No, hold
Why
on.
should the Supreme Court have to always knock them and rap them on
No,
their knuckles?
that point is
So
taken.
please
but
don't-
No,
don't-
but Prashant
no.
Bhushan,
Please
Prashant
don't
Bhushan,
use
there is a
tangential
danger.
logic.
There is a danger. How do you respond to those who will say there's a danger? Cancelling 122 licenses will send out the wrong signals. It will lead to another spate of litigations, Prashant Bhushan. There will be a number of people, number of corporates who say we've had legitimate contracts. Why should we face the consequences of the actions of someone else?
Well, firstly, those corporates who got these licenses were fully aware of the illegalities. The illegalities were so gross that the cutoff date is preponed, thereby rendering half the
Yes.
applicants ineligible.
Right.
Then first come, first served is fiddled with and manipulated. Then you are giving away clearly spectrum whose market price was at least 6-7 times at 1/6 or 1/7 the price, and therefore those corporates who bought into these licenses like Telenor etc.
Yes.
did it with open eyes, and if they did not do it with open eyes, in any case they cannot say that, look, though I have purchased stolen goods,
Correct.
yet these goods should remain with me.
Okay.
So therefore, in fact, business confidence in this country will be enhanced by this judgment, because it sends out a clear signal that this kind of crony capitalism will not be allowed in this country, and therefore only those who want to do honest business in India should come to India.
But Suhail said, be honest. Will crony capitalism end as a result of this judgment? There will always be a corporate
this is-
who will look for
Correct.
an A. Raja-like figure to
No.
get illegal benefits.
No. much as I admire Prashant for the stand he's taken and for the courage he's exhibited in taking these matters to the Supreme Court, I have a very fundamental, non-cynical question to ask. Between the time Raja went to jail and today, and we are almost celebrating his anniversary in Tihar,
yes,
do you think crony capitalism has disappeared? Do you think there's no corruption? Do you think the obfuscation of the government with the Lokpal bill was not a reflection of hiding away from weeding out corruption?
Corporates,
so the reality is,
let's focus for a
Supreme
moment
Court,
on corporates.
Hear me out. Please remember, Prashant Bhushan and his team, Anna, also wanted corporates to be included within the ambit of the Lokpal bill. So let's go through the logic first. Number one. Number two, I'm consistently saying you have to stop and you have to weed out corruption at the bottom. The bottom is not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court cannot continuously run the country. It's not their business. So if people who run the country continue to be corrupt, believe that judgments will take long, during which they will fatten their wallets, you will continue to have crony capitalism in some form or the other. They'll only invent a better mousetrap.
Suhail, my old friend, don't obfuscate the issue. The fish rots from the head.
I like the word.
Write that, okay? Corruption at the top is really the issue. Corruption at the level of the Council of Ministers that is the issue. I think you have to appreciate
that's what
the point.
I'm saying.
So,
Not at the bottom.
you're saying the fish rots at the top, whether it's with corporate India or with political India.
Absolutely
At the end,
correct.
okay.
Rajdeep,
And that's why
Rajdeep, why do you have a feeble sense of history? On your channel, on May 16, 2009, I was the one who coined the phrase, DMK is daily money for Karunanidhi, which was a complete and composite reference to A. Raja and his hoodlum tactics of stealing public money.
Okay,
so I have maintained my stand consistently.
Okay, let's take a break.
Please understand, one minute.
Yes, no.
Why did A. Raja think he could get away? Because of coalition cronism and crony capitalism.
Okay.
There are two kinds of cronism operating in India today.
Okay, let's take a break at this point. Prashant Bhushan now leaves us because after the break, we'll look with our panelists, all of whom have looked at the telecom sector closely. More experts will join us because 122 licenses issued in 2008 have been cancelled. What does this mean for you and me, the customers? Are we to lose confidence in the telecom sector? This was the great Indian dream. What will happen to brand India and the brand telecom sector? Back in a moment with that when we return. Let me raise the next big question. Can the telecom sector, once seen as a symbol of new emerging India, survive the 2G mess? Before we come to our panel, let's listen in to J.S. Sarma, Chairman of the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. He said that the Supreme Court's decision will impact less than 5% of the subscribers.
So can you tell us the impact of today's judgment both on the consumer and on the industry? What does the judgment today really mean?
The number of subscribers covered by the licensees who have got this, whose licenses are cancelled, I don't think it's very significant. In terms of numbers it is significant, but in terms of percentage it is small. It's just about 5% or so. Now, even the existing customers can always port out to different service providers through the process of mobile number portability.
Okay, let's rejoin our panel. Paranjoy Gua Thakurta still with us and giving us his perspective. Mahesh Uppal, telecom analyst and expert, joins us. Siddharth Zarabi, economic policy editor of CNBC, who tracks the telecom sector closely. Suhail Seth of Council Edge, managing partner, with us, and Gopal Jain, lawyer who represents telecom companies, with us. Let's come to you on that bigger question now. Let's just step back for a moment. What is the impact this is going to have, Mahesh, on this sector, which was once seen, or is still seen by many, as the great sunrise sector of the last decade?
I'm extremely positive about this judgment. I think the sector will actually heave a sigh of relief in many ways, primarily because one of the most important problems, which was relating to spectrum allocation, which is the key unresolved issue in telecom sector, has now been settled. It has